Okay, at this time, I will call the meeting to order and ask that you please arise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America and to the Texas flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. So I hope we can do good work here efficiently. I have a hard stop with the Corps of Engineers at 4 o'clock. If the meeting does take longer, Commissioners, I do need 30 minutes. We'll have a hard stop at 4 o'clock, and we'll be back on, we'll recess for 30 minutes. Okay, at this time, let me note for the clerk that it's 1:35 p.m., and I do certify that all commissioners are here. Commissioner John Modis is on virtually. Everybody else is in the room. And we are on the third floor of the Nueces County Courthouse in Commissioner's Courtroom at 901 North Leopard, and the date is August 30th, 2021. I would like to ask Tyner if there's a, Tyner, there it is, Belinda has it for you. If he would bring forward, please, the public comment roster, and I see none online, and I see none in person. I will ask those online, if you do need to make public comment, please signify by raising your hand on the virtual screen. Okay, we'll move on to regular agenda item number A1. But forgive me, I cannot do that. I need to move on to item A2 because we also are being joined by Patricia Shipton, and she is going to talk to us about Senate Bill 6 and its companion HB 12 relating to bond reform and any potential county budget impacts. And of course, there is an action item here, Commissioners, and that's to support any amendments that would allow her to, and the legislative team to issue cards in support of SB 6 and HB 12 with the amendments that could reduce our financial burden. It's a pretty serious matter, and our expert in the room is Patricia Shipton, member of our legislative team. Patricia, would you take us through it?
Good afternoon, Judge and Commissioners. Yes, I'm happy to provide what is going to be just an update. Once we got a quorum back in the legislature, all of these bills have been moving pretty quickly. And in fact, this bill, although it did have a long hearing and a long debate on the House floor, all of these votes, Judge and Commissioners, have gone down strictly party lines. And it's unfortunate that we find ourselves in this state, but I just have to say it as candidly as I can. These special sessions have seemed to me in my 40 years experience been not about policy, but about politics. And that's kind of where we ended up. And that's kind of where this bill in itself has fallen down those party lines. So the bill is, again, one of those bills that has been attached a highly emotional sentiment to it. It's been renamed the Damon Allen Act after a DPS officer who tragically was shot during a traffic stop by a defendant who had been released on bail. And despite being a repeat offender and with a violent past, he was out on bail, and then this tragedy occurred. And it's not an uncommon situation, but it has prompted the legislature to react in this way. And so this bill there's a constitutional amendment, which I will further expound upon in a minute, and a bill that changes the structure of how bail is, what offenses can be eligible for bail, and a new tool for judges and magistrates to use to check criminal background. And then again, as the judge mentioned, the inadvertent cost, the cost that nobody talked about a lot, is that as you're changing the bail system, of course, you're going to have perhaps defendants sitting longer in jail, added costs in how long it takes to process those defendants, all of that. That, while raised by members on the floor, did not resonate as far as voting in solutions to that. The most brilliant solution, I think, that the Conference of Urban Counties offered and got Chris Turner of Tarrant County to offer was an amendment that would have allowed counties to back out the criminal justice costs out of the new revenue rate. And I thought that was a very eloquent solution to this. It failed on a party line vote with 2 Republicans that voted with the Democrats, and so it failed on a 74-42 vote. The bill passed second reading. The House goes back into session today at 2. I expect it to pass third reading easily and be headed over to the Senate. I do not think, so this is a Senate bill over in the House, as you know. I do not think there is enough difference between the House and the Senate versions to necessitate a conference committee. I have not heard that from the bill author himself. He's hopeful that the Senate will concur in the House amendments. If that is the case, then I think this is on a fast track forward. The companion constitutional amendment, which, as you know, we're all guaranteed the right to our liberties under the Constitution, and the bail is set forth in the Constitution as well, or the right to bail. The constitutional amendment would take it to the voters and limiting the ability to seek bail for certain criminal offenses, violent offenses, serious sex offenses, human trafficking, repeated human trafficking offenses. That constitutional amendment, because again, as I mentioned earlier, these votes are falling along strict party lines. That constitutional amendment, which needs a 2/3 vote in the House, failed to get a 2/3 vote. I was hopeful, because usually the constitutional amendment and the enabling legislation are linked. These have been severed. So even if the constitutional amendment does not pass, which I do not think it will get 100 votes today, the enabling legislation goes forward. I know the CUC provided y'all with a breakdown of estimated costs. I can only suppose that their numbers are probably pretty on point. They have a lot more experience in dealing with that. Y'all will have to push the numbers there. I know that there was, I visited with CUC folks today, as has Belinda rather, and Belinda and I will have to coordinate this. I know there was some concession made for indigent defense costs. I have yet to see the exact language on that. That was something that the CUC and others negotiated in the bill drafting. So prior to the amendment phase on the floor, I hadn't seen the exact language, but Belinda and I will follow up and try to get that exact language so that we know how that impacts the county. So Judge, that is kind of my bail synopsis for y'all today. I do have a quick TWIA update if y'all want it, just because
Sure.
that was
I just want to make sure that the court and the audience understands that the reason we brought this forward was not to have the political discourse. It was to understand that this could be impactful to our county and to many other counties in the terms of millions and millions of dollars. And whether we stand on one side or another, we just have to understand the budgetary concerns. So if this passes, it could be a $3 million to $4 million impact for our county, and we need to understand that that would make a major dent. We'd have to account for that.
Right, and I didn't mean to make this a political discussion. I just meant to kind of characterize for y'all.
Oh, yes. No, I
setting
understand.
we're operating in. I agree. And I think, Judge, when you alerted us to this bill and kind of the negative impact, and we immediately contacted our delegation and started coordinating with the associations and their work, because they were really doing the frontline work on negotiating amendments. And so it is just a strange session, Judge, honestly, and commissioners. And things are moving quickly. And so I anticipate, short of the little bit of relief that we may have gotten on indigent defense and how that impacts the court, I don't see a lot to alleviate the concerns about cost to the court, potential cost to the court.
And not on misdemeanors either, Patricia?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
Unless it links back to the indigent.
Unless it links back to indigent. Okay, understood. Okay, let me let you move on to TWIA, and then we'll open it up for any discussion or questions the
Is
court
this-
may have.
I'm sorry.
Yes, excuse me one
comment?
second, Patricia. Go ahead.
Are we noticed for TWIA?
Oh, we might not be. Okay, I'm sorry, Patricia, we're not noticed for TWIA.
You're right.
I'm sorry.
She can do public comment.
I'll
We
get it
can-
in an email.
Public comment? Sign up for public comment?
If you can
I'm
sign up for
happy
public
to
comment.
sign you up for public comment, and then you could give us some info on it. Go
We
ahead.
just can't discuss it.
Just an update, because there was a hearing today, and I thought I'd just throw that in, but it's not absolutely necessary.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Can
if
I
it's-
go back to the bail thing? Do y'all need anything else?
Yeah, let's
on
go
that?
back to bail. Are there any other concerns or questions regarding Senate Bill 6 and its companion, House Bill 12, from Patricia? Okay. Well, we're going to note it as a potential budget challenge that might become a real serious one. We'll wait to hear from you guys. We meet again on September the 8th. Maybe we'll get a better understanding of where we are.
Yes, and we'll continue to check with the county associations, because if there is a countywide effort to somehow challenge or to question, especially the whole idea of being able to back out those criminal justice costs from your new revenue rate, that
Right.
just makes infinite sense to me, and there just wasn't an appetite for it. It had been moving along, my insider knowledge checking, it had been moving along in kind of negotiations and was going to be offered as a floor amendment, and then they checked with the different legislators who kind of have the purview over property tax and ways and means committees and those policy experts, and it got stalled out there. But I think it was on a fairly good track, and we were so hopeful that we were going to get it on the House floor and had been working it, and then the property tax policy folks and the criminal justice policy folks came to loggerheads.
Yeah, and there is a legislative conference this week in Austin. I believe it's September 1st through the 3rd, and I think I might be there on the 3rd. I know
Yes, ma'am.
Wednesday I can't, and Thursdays, I might be there Thursday, but we'll see what we can do. But we are in contact with you guys and our association, and this is our opportunity to share with the court what's going on. And it really does underscore, and I mean, the need to make certain that even when you're not having your agenda in motion, look at what happens when you don't have a opportunity to voice your county's concern. This is why it's absolutely critical. With COVID-19, there's just no way I can spend all day long working on bail reform. And that's why it's critical that you guys are at the forefront. And I want to thank you and Joel in particular for really keeping me updated and working with Adam and Wendy Johnson, so.
And we're happy to do so, Judge. And if y'all need anything, don't hesitate to call, of
Right.
course. And if you want to
Okay.
just shoot the questions, we can run the traps.
Appreciate it. Okay, great. Well, we'll move on. I'll call it
Thank
again. If
y'all.
there's nothing else, Patricia, we know you've got to get on another call. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
It's two parts, Judge. Are you doing no action on the second?
Well, I just don't think we have right? I don't feel like there's anything to jump on to. Other than, if I had something in front of me, but I don't feel like I have an amendment to, to really work from.
It's true, Judge. There was a lot of change going on even Friday when we
Yeah.
were posting this, so.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I think that with the only thing I'd like to maybe have the court do is certainly, if you want to make a motion to, allow our legislative delegation to, continue to monitor the fiscal impact of SB 6 and particularly this indigent defense, component. I just don't have anything we could really vote on in front of me
I don't
right
think
now.
there is today,
You know?
Judge. Yeah, I really don't.
So Jenny, I'll just have to hold. But thank you for bringing that up. Okay, at this time, I'm going to move forward and discuss the potential legal issues related to the contract. It's item number 3A1, forgive me, 3A1. Discuss potential legal issues relating to the contract with ABM Bundled Energy Solutions Project Agreement. Discuss and consider options available to the court on work not yet performed. And for this opportunity, we both have the opportunity to discuss legal action in executive session, but I believe there is a presentation that will be made at this time. to go over this, and then there'll be an opportunity to ask our counsel any legal questions that we might have. And I'm going to recognize Mike Bailey from ABM, and Mike has a presentation and given it to Connie. She's going to get it set up, Mike.
Yes,
Give it
ma'am.
just a moment. And before you start, are there any pre-discussion that you'd like to have, commissioners?
No,
Or
ma'am.
are you happy to have Mr. Bailey continue? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Commissioner?
What was
All
this?
right, Commissioner. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing us to be here to present today on this particular item. As always, let me introduce my team so that you know who's present. In the room with us today, I have Lisa Loop, who is our Vice President of Sales for the West. I have Larry Harshaw, who is our General Manager for the branch in Houston, who is responsible for the delivery of this project. I have Mike Moriarty, who is also our VP of Operations for delivery. Do I need to raise this up? Okay, sorry.
There you go.
I didn't understand that hand signal, sorry. Mike Moriarty, who is our VP of Operations for the West. Of course, Joel Lopez, who you've seen before. Online today, I have Joel Lowry, who is our Vice President for North America for ATS Sales. Also, Noel Becker, who is our counsel, General Counsel for ABM, who is also present. So last meeting, we did present an overview of the project, what was being accomplished. We're very excited about the work that has been done to date and the way that we're moving forward with this project. The biggest thing that I want to point out, and before we kind of jump into the other meat of the presentation, is the fact that this project is having a tremendous impact on this local economy. Currently, we have on our subcontractor list that we're utilizing 45 subcontractors and suppliers, most of which are local. I'll use the fairgrounds as an example. We have 7 subcontractors currently delivering work at the fairgrounds. Between the period of March through July, they have delivered over 27,000 man-hours of work. This is local labor that we're supporting in our project that has been utilized to deliver this work. So again, this project is providing a tremendous financial impact to this community. Also in the last meeting, I think there was in the purpose of being here today by ABM, is that there was a discussion regarding the understanding of the project financing. ABM believes that we will be presenting today that through the many meetings that were held throughout the development process, as well as in front of this court, that there has been a transparent and clear presentation of both the scope of work to be delivered and also how this project would be paid for. To level set us today, yeah, go to the next slide, I'm sorry. To kind of level set us today, ABM developed this project in accordance with Texas Local Government Code, Section 302. Texas Local Government Code, and we've discussed this before this court on numerous occasions in each of our presentations. It allows us to provide energy-saving improvements to your facilities. It allows those savings to be paid for by savings, and it requires us to have a guarantee of the savings that we are providing as verified by a independent third-party engineer, which was done in this case. The legislation also allows us to provide the inclusion of ancillary work that is not funded by savings. It specifically states that in the legislation that was in place at the time this contract was approved. Examples of that would be paving. Obviously, paving doesn't have any energy savings to it. The amphitheater is a new construction that obviously does not have savings, but an add to it. Next slide, please. So just to kind of, again, level set us, I just want to review this real quick. We started December 4th with the letter of intent. For the period from January of 2020 until July 29th, when we presented at the workshop, ABM had its engineers on site doing walk of facilities. Joel, myself, our engineering team was meeting on a continual basis weekly throughout even though COVID was occurring. We were meeting on a weekly basis, either in person or virtually with Public Works. We've had meetings with some staff. We've had meetings with commissioners. Throughout that process, the whole purpose of it was to create an understanding and understand that the scope that we were delivering was the scope that you wanted, and also discuss the funding requirements that we would be utilizing to deliver this project. We have commenced, obviously, in the installation period. The installation period is an 18-month period, which will be ending in April of 2022. At that point, there would be a substantial completion document executed, and upon that completion, we would commence to the M&V period. The M&V period is measurement verification of the guaranteed savings. And so that would be the point when you would start seeing the savings from all the facility improvements being installed and the guarantee taking place. Next slide, please. So real quick, we had approval of the letter of intent on December 4th. We had a workshop presentation on July 29th of 2020, and I'm going to spend some time discussing that workshop. On August 19th, the workshop on 7/29 kind of got characterized as the universe, which was all the scope that had been provided by Public Works, all the scope had been provided by different commissioners, and so it was all inclusive of everything there. On 8/19, the court defined the core projects. The core projects are what were included in our contract that was subsequently approved on September 23rd of 2020, contingent upon financing. On October 21st of 2020, the court approved the issuance of a notice to proceed, and then on October 29th, the financing was finalized with Bank of America. Next slide. As I've said, throughout this process, ABM has been very open and transparent as it relates to being very thorough in defining the scope of work at each facility. As you recall, in each of the presentations, we've had our scope of work by facilities. We've had that color-coded. That color coding has designated whether that work was a part of the the 2019 CIP work that was identified, whether it was for security and safety, whether it was deferred maintenance, or whether it was for work that was added by staff. And so in every presentation, the scope of work and color coding was provided so that you understood where the work was, who was requiring the work, and why this work was being provided within this contract. That was provided throughout the first part of the workshop. The last part of the workshop was a detailed review of the cash flow. The cash flow that we presented included the energy savings, operational savings, the increased revenue, and capital cost avoidance. Go to the next slide. Throughout this process, throughout that presentation, and you can go back and look at that, obviously it's recorded on the 29th, I did present what each of those elements were and how they were being utilized. The energy savings. Obviously, energy savings is the reduction in energy consumed through the installation of higher efficiency equipment. The energy calculations are reviewed and approved by an independent third-party engineer, which was done by Sibler and Associates, and they did present their report to the court, and that report was accepted by the court. Per the terms of the contract executed with ABM, we're going to guarantee the energy savings that is realized. That contract document specifies exactly how that savings guarantee is implemented and what was approved and executed by this court. When you look at our energy savings for over the 15-year term is in excess of $7 million. So we're actually guaranteeing that the court will realize $7 million of energy savings over the 15-year term, which will offset a portion of the cost that you are seeing, that you're paying for in this project. Operational savings. This is the projection of reduction in M&O budget that occurs from the replacement of equipment and upgrades to facilities being delivered. This amount was $4.5 million in the cash flow over the 15-year term. Will provide for that operational savings. These are items that we're installing that you're not going to have to be incurring maintenance cost on, or things such as LED lighting, HVAC upgrades, new chiller and plant, paving repairs, carpet and painting, gel smoke purge system, roof replacement, new DDC controls to replace outdated pneumatic controls, water conservation, which includes new china in many places, as well as upgrades to the water control systems within the jail, boiler replacement here at the courthouse, and a hot water system upgrades. When you look at some of these things, for example, the hot water system upgrades, this was an item that was added by Public Works to us because they were having ongoing maintenance issues with the hot water system. The heat exchangers, they were having to take them apart, they were having to clean them, they were calcifying and creating a significant maintenance issue. And so they asked us to address it. That is a prime example of something that reduces operational savings, that provides operational savings. Go to the next slide. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more. Increased revenue. The cash flow that was presented as part of the 729 workshop clearly included a projection for an increase in revenue as it relates to the fairgrounds. That was based upon the fact that we are providing substantial improvements to the fairgrounds. We're replacing the roof so that you're renting facilities that water doesn't leak when it rains during an event. You replace the carpet in this facility, and painted the facility, which makes it much more rentable. The next part of that was the addition of an amphitheater, again, an additional amenity that could be rented and increase the revenue. We projected a 10% increase, which is a very modest increase in the revenue. I know it was stated in the prior court that you do subsidize the fairground operations. Obviously, increased revenue would have the intent of reducing the subsidy that you're to be paying there. The last item I'd like to talk to is capital cost avoidance, and that recognizes the money that the county would have had to spend to address the capital improvements that were identified in the 2019 CIP that was prepared by Land, for the additional work that was requested by Public Works, and items representing deferred maintenance. Items such as paving, painting, carpet, roofing, and amphitheater, smoke purge systems, air handlers, etc., are examples of equipment and improvements that don't provide energy savings to be able to fund those. So these are items that were identified that are required to be done, that this work is essential to maintain these facilities. I'll give you some examples. Let's go to the fairgrounds. I just mentioned that. The roof at the fairgrounds had been damaged multiple times by windstorms, et cetera. It was creating leaks within the facility. Repairs had been issued on that and over time, and which required operational dollars. It was in the CIP to replace that roof, which we did include in our scope and was approved by this court. Paving. The paving at the fairgrounds. It had deteriorated. There were holes, potholes. It had been, obviously, I'm sure, been repaired over time. But again, Public Works came to us and asked that we include this in our scope to be able to totally replace that paving around the apron and the concrete paving around the facilities. Again, this is work that needed to be done, that was required to be done, but had not been provided for previously, and we were asked to include that in our contract. Galahar, a couple items at Galahar. I'll go to the roof at Galahar. If you go up on the roof at Galahar, you're going to find that there's been a lot of Band-Aid approaches to trying to repair that roof over time. We've had, obviously you can see the repairs. There's some sealant been applied to it in locations, all those things. Public Works came to us and asked us to include this in our scope because the right solution was to replace that roof. They wanted us to provide that service to them. Again, there's very little or savings associated with that. The parking lot at Galahar is another example. At Galahar, the Public Works has actually resurfaced that parking lot, but there's still an ongoing issue that can only be addressed by replacing that parking lot. And so, again, Public Works came to us as part of the development process and asked that we include that in our scope because this was work that was necessary to maintain that facility. To be able to fund that within our program, that was considered capital cost avoidance. The CIP improvements, the additional paving that was added by Public Works, the roofing that was included. All those things were considered and presented in the workshop as capital cost avoidance. Next slide, please. On October 29th, as you saw in our timeline, the court did finalize the financing with Bank of America. Nueces County provided the procurement for that. They issued an RFP to obtain that financing. We did provide the cash flow that was utilized in that. And again, it did include all the items that I just went through as part of that cash flow. ABM did not negotiate any of the terms of the financing, including the timing of the payments to be made. And if you go back and review our presentations, we presented in court that we anticipated the first payment not to occur until 2022 after substantial completion. So in our presentations, we did not anticipate any payments this early in the process, no payments until after it was totally completed. And so you were realizing the guaranteed savings that we had put in the contract. Negotiation of the financing was performed by the Nueces County Auditor's Office, the County Attorney's Office, Procurement, the county's financial advisor, and the county's bond counsel. And the county was able to obtain financing at a very competitive financing rate of about 1.84%. Next slide, please. Today, as a follow-up to the last presentation, we have provided a little over $15.5 million worth of facility improvements and upgrades. This is work that is in progress, equipment that has been delivered. We bill when equipment is provided on site. And so when you look at that, that's 48% of the total contract that has already been billed for work that has actually been delivered. And we are continuing to deliver this project in a workmanlike manner, as efficiently and as correctly as anyone can. Next slide. If the contract was to be suspended, there's ramifications, and should not be seen as any type of a threat, but just a statement of facts. Is all this is intended for. Under the terms of the contract, we can be paid for demobilization and termination fees. You can see there that, while that cost has not been calculated, obviously, because we're not at that point and hopefully we never are at that point. We're excited about continuing to deliver this contract. It could be quite substantial. There are obviously operational issues that would have to be addressed, again, because we are in progress. We have, we're working on delivering the roofing at the fairgrounds. It's in progress. It's not completed. We have materials that we've already purchased to be installed that are on site. We have paving at the fairgrounds, which is well underway, but not complete. The McKenzie Annex, we have two temporary chillers sitting there serving that facility right now. The chillers have been delivered to site and are being installed along with all the piping and pumping, but that work is not completed. The courthouse is currently operating on one boiler. We're, as you know, as part of our scope that we presented, we're installing 3 brand new boilers to provide a redundant solution for the hot water system. That work, the boilers were moved in. They're in the process of being connected. But again, that work has not been completed at this point. Obviously, there's equipment that has been ordered. All of our subcontractors are employed at this point. We've issued contracts to all of our subcontractors. We are moving forward with the ordering of materials, dealing with, obviously, with COVID supply issues. Roofing installation is one item, as I mentioned in the prior meeting, that is being delayed, but it has been ordered. All this equipment, if you were to not move forward with the installation of it, would either have to be returned with with a potential significant stocking fee, or if it was specialized equipment that couldn't be returned, then it would be delivered to the site. When we processed this contract, we did this back in April, May of 2020. And so we were pricing this basically pre-COVID, or right at the start of the major start of COVID. So we were able to obtain very good pricing at that point. The fact is now, obviously, as you're dealing with projects in the CIP, pricing has increased significantly. Subcontractors and with the supply issues that are present today, if you were to have to reprice this project, it would be a substantial increase. There's also the issues around warranty and savings guarantees. So just wanted to make sure that these facts were presented. I want to make sure that, if you have any questions, we feel like we have presented fairly and openly and transparently regarding to how this contract would be structured. I encourage you to look at the presentation of the workshop that was provided July 29th to see that for yourself. And that's what I wanted to present today. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
The only one I'm noticing is there's slide 12 and 13. Is that for us not to address right now? It's fine if it's not. I'm just looking at my screen.
That was provided in the last meeting. I can go
Oh,
through that.
no worries.
can
Okay,
go
I
through
just
that
see
if you-
them. I just
Yes,
wanted
ma'am.
to make, that's
ma'am.
all. No worries.
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
wanting to make sure that.
It's available to you. Again, I did go through that in the last meeting, so I
Well,
wasn't going to
the only thing that I wanted to add is that you did not provide it for us, but I had Teresa provide it to the court. And that is that just to remind the court, the schedule, the payment schedule has been provided to the court, as well as the guaranteed cost savings. And it starts off being $645,000, $464. And just to further explain that, Mike, that comes from either realized, what we call real, actual savings, or it's made up by contract through the delta of real actualized or what would be guaranteed to the court, to the county. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. So the energy savings is specifically guaranteed within the terms of the contract. As I say, over the term of the contract, that's over $7 million. There's operational savings of $300,000 a year. That's $4.5 million of savings that is projected to be realized by the court as well.
So when Teresa calculates $11,547,118, that it does assume a 3% annual utility savings. That's a
does.
3% increment increase.
That is correct.
And so if the payments total 27 million over time, and the cost savings are 11 million over time, then the county's net is 16 million over time. And that's not speculative. That's what the contract requires. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just want to make sure the commissioners have that as well. And now I'll open it up to any questions regarding the PowerPoint presentation that you've given. Commissioner Hernandez, do you have any questions, Mr.
Just one
Bailey?
question.
Yes, sir.
When y'all did the contract, who all was involved? City, your company and the county? When
Yeah.
y'all did the original contract?
Yes, sir. As far as development, we worked directly with staff and Public Works to develop the scopes and everything, and then the contract was presented. The first version of the contract actually got presented in June for initial review, and then subsequently was presented after the workshop on July 29th for legal counsel, and then to the third party. Am I answering your question? I want to make sure I'm answering the question you're asking.
Really what I want to know, is this contract a county contract or ABM contract that y'all,
This was written on our paper. I would say it was an ABM contract presented to the county, if that's what you're asking. Yes,
that's
sir.
what I'm asking.
Okay,
Thank
yes, sir. I'm sorry.
And was it reviewed by legal counsel for the county?
It was, yes, ma'am, it was reviewed by council. It was also provided to Public Works for review, I know as a fact too.
Okay. And Commissioner Gonzalez?
I have a couple of questions here. I really, looking at the whole thing, and I really don't, for me, whatever you guys started, whatever you guys have done, I think you should finish it. I just gonna look at the other way around. I just think whatever is not energy savings, we need to put aside. That's the way I feel. And because we talked about budget a while ago, talking about how much money we're gonna need. So my deal is, I always look at it as a energy savings performance. And if some of those things are not energy performance savings, my deal is, those can be put aside, and stick with the energy savings performance and finish those out. And see how we are with money down the road. But that money, when we reduce those projects, it lowers the American Bank, money that we need to borrow from American Bank. I just, because I'm looking at some of the things here, and I know that you mentioned a while ago about that you were told by the Public Works, there was a $228,000 change order. I believe it was $228,000, right? But, I have a sign here, the original contract, I guess, is a change order. It was signed by the judge in June the 23rd. Then 2 months later, I guess it was given to Public Works, and Mr. Pimentel signed it and said only items A, D, and F that he'd agree with. And I guess it proceeded with all of, y'all could proceed with all of them. A was banquet hall columns, D was flex conference room, F was carpet tiles upgrade. But you went ahead and did everything else, so, and I can understand because it maybe has the judge's signature, but I don't think the Public Works agree with everything that's on there, right?
If I might address that, Commissioner, when we presented that, and I did present that change order to the court, and you're correct, the question came that we had provided a wainscot painting that wasn't in the original contract. In other words, within the facility, we have painting, and we were to paint that one color. The wainscoting was added by the interior designer, who felt like this would be a nice amenity. Because we were already mobilized, painting, and had the schedule set, we did move forward without approval to paint the wainscoting. And that was brought up by Public Works in the session. I believe the judge, you made the comment that, if that doesn't get approved, then, ABM would have to eat that. And so subsequently, the court did approve the change order in total. And as you see the process, then it went to Public Works, and they did want to pull that item out. But that is the story, is that because of the scheduling of having the painters on site, and that's what we presented that day, we did choose to go forward without approval, and that's on us. And so that's where we are.
Let me
Yeah,
make sure that he has more questions. Let's go ahead and
Judge.
continue with your questions.
I'm not finished yet. Hold on.
That's why I said I'm going to go ahead and continue with your questions.
Yeah, okay, thank you. The other thing that, I'm looking at the list here, and, nothing with you guys, I just want to make sure, we need to cut this year, we got to cut. And I think if we can cut here, it's going to give us a big, more money we don't have to worry about as far as American Bank.
It's just so you know, it's Bank of America.
Bank of America, I'm sorry, let me correct it. I'm just, the items are, to me, I'm gonna go back to the energy savings performance. That's what we're talking about. It doesn't say anything else other than energy performance, energy savings performance contract. So, and I know there's some items in Oasis County Jail, like the smoke purge, ozone laundry system, that weren't energy savings. I guess, unless there are, let me know, but I know there, as far as I'm concerned, I think the laundry machine upgrades at the juvenile center, full parking replacement is not energy savings, I don't think. And the landscaping, concrete repair walkways to the Richard Orchard Fairgrounds, and the outdoor stage and lighting. And we agreed that one last time, it wasn't energy savings. So, these are the things that I feel that, what you doing, everything else, it's energy savings, I don't have a problem with that. But I wanna make sure that we just don't, I wanna stop and say, if it's not energy savings, I don't wanna do them. You know, I mean, I think right now, as far as our funds are concerned and our budgets are concerned, we need to be more proactive in our funds for this coming year. So, I mean, this is how I feel, like I said.
Yes, sir.
Like I said, I don't have a problem with you guys, ABM doing it, finishing it, whatever you started. I don't have a problem with that. But I still have a problem with what hasn't been started and it's not energy saving.
Commissioner, do you have any other questions for him before he responds to you? I think he should hear all of them.
Sure.
Do you have any others?
No, well, just one.
Okay, go ahead.
And if you can, Mr. Bailey, if you go down that list, can you give me the ones that are not energy savings, please?
Again, hang on one second. I mean, what we did was we identified in the prior presentation, and we may be able to pull that up from the prior meeting. Again, I go back to the fact that we color-coded the scope in each of the presentations, starting on the July 29th scope presentation and workshop, all the way through even the presentation this past week, or this past meeting. And in that meeting, again, as we went through that, we had color-coded everything green that was energy savings. We color-coded everything that was deferred maintenance. We had color-coded everything that was, so, yeah, right there. That's the courthouse.
Why don't you, if you don't mind, forgive me for the interruption, Connie, go ahead and send that to Maggie in my office who's listening, and let's have her print that for Commissioner Gonzalez right
I
now.
have it, Judge, don't worry about it.
Well, you
I
just
have-
asked him for it. Would you like it or not?
I was asking for it, I'm just asking him a question.
No, you said, I'd like to see a list. Would you like her to
I asked
print
him
it?
to give me what I listed, I just mentioned, what's energy saving and what's not. Very simple.
Yeah.
Right?
No, yes, sir. And again, I mean, yes, that information is readily available because it's been in all of our presentations. I know our attorney, I think, has a comment maybe
Okay.
that he wants to make, if that's possible.
If you'll unmute him.
It's Noah.
Unmute Mr. Becker, please. Connie, go ahead, Mr. Becker.
Thanks, Judge. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for giving me a second. I just wanted to address that point a little more clearly. You know, there seems to be there's an idea that we could de-scope some of this work that's not energy savings. And I just want to make sure everyone understands that you can't unring a bell, right? We are a year into an 18-month construction project. There is no work that has not been started, right? So if you wanted to remove a scope of work, you're going to be throwing money away because you've already paid us to design and engineer this work. In some cases, we're going to have significant work that has been done, but it won't be finished. In some cases, you will have significant materials or commodities that have to be paid for, despite the fact that you might not get them if you do not pay to finish them. So, you know, we're happy to try and find workable solutions here, but the idea that you could just halt, you know, a project at 50% and wouldn't incur just, you know, disastrous consequences is, you know, just unrealistic. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that it's not like we just contracted for this work last week. We've been working on this for a year, right? We bought out those subcontracts and that material immediately, right? We've, you know, started engineering the work immediately. We, you know, we're close to the finish line here. This isn't back at the starting line.
I'd like to respond back to him. I'm sorry, what was your name, sir?
Mr. Becker?
Mr. Becker?
Sorry, yeah, Noah Becker. I'm counsel for ABM.
Okay. Well, welcome. I'd just like to, I mentioned a while ago, I didn't say anything about stopping a project that's already 50% or 40% or whatever percent. I'm talking about projects that hadn't even been started yet, and no materials have been ordered. Those are the projects that I'm talking about. You know, if we haven't started a project, we
There
haven't
are
ordered
no
material on a
projects
project.
that have not been started, Commissioner. That's what I'm trying to make sure you understand.
Sure.
That's exactly the point I want to make sure you understand, right? So before you even signed this contract, ABM designed this work at risk, right? That's part of the benefit to the county is we come in and we will put together these scopes of work completely at risk, and you don't pay for anything unless you decide to move forward with the project. From there, is when you signed the contract a year ago, we started implementing this immediately. So there is not a single scope of work that has not been started where we have not signed contracts, where we have not ordered equipment or material. There is no scope that fits that description.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Chesney, do you have any questions?
No, not at this time. I'm gonna wait
Okay.
till for the executive session.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to address, and really, I think Mr. Becker properly addressed it, but I just wanted to make certain that it was clear. This is one contract, not 10 little contracts put together. This is one contract. Is that correct, Mr. Becker? And all of the elements are in there. So you call it de-scoping. Sometimes I just like to lay the groundwork in a much more simplistic way, that we have one contract with ABM with a lot of different elements. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct, Judge. There's one contract with one price.
Right. And the second issue that I wrote down was that, just as a point of clarification, we, the county, wrote the RFP. ABM didn't have anything to do with the RFP with regards to financing, other than provide the information that was requested to our council. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, but I would defer to Mike in the room. who
That
Mike.
is, that is correct, Judge.
Right.
The RFP was written by procurement, and we did provide the cash flow, as I stated earlier.
Right. Okay. And so the next part is that it was brought up that there was a change order. And even though you said it, Mike, because it was said quickly and because there was an implication that somebody followed an order, a signed change order, the reason that change order, this is not me asking you, Mike, this is me telling you, that the reason that change order got sent with my signature is because this court voted to approve that change order. I'm in the regular habit of following the court's rules here. And so if they approve it, I do sign it. It comes to me from Teresa, and we go over it. We make sure that it was what the court's intentions were, and it was signed. If Public Works doesn't want to sign it, Public Works is not the policymaker. It was brought to court properly, and we voted to create that change order. It's the only change order that's been a cost change order. There was a $500,000 no-cost change order, and the second one was this one. So, having said that, I think that's important to note, that that change order was a court-approved change order, and therefore it did have my signature on it. And the real question is why didn't it have Public Works signature? We're not into the opinion poll, we're into what the court approves. And then finally, I wrote down about the laundry machine, and any woman that knows about washing machines knows that there is definitely energy savings, but I thought I would go ahead and make sure, since there might not be a lot of clothes washers up here besides me, although I bet Commissioner Chesney helps out. I don't know why I feel that, but I feel like he might help his wife wash clothes. And anyway, when you go to Best Buy, the first thing that you see is that there are energy efficiencies. So could you share with us whether that laundry machine that was questioned as to whether or not there was energy savings, are there energy savings?
There is two savings really associated with that, and make sure I state this correctly, team. One is obviously in the energy, it was one savings. The other thing, that with the ozone capability, it reduces the amount of detergent and things that are required to be utilized to clean the clothes themselves. And so it's both a energy saving and operational savings, both.
In a jail is certainly not a hotel, but it's a hotel for.
It's 24/7.
Right. It is It is a serious laundry, and someone ought to look at the amount of towels we purchase. It's unbelievable. But there's no doubt there are some ancillary projects, and those ancillary projects are a part of the overall contract. And so I wrote down to make certain that you put it in here, maybe in a previous PowerPoint, but there is a statutory allowance for ancillary projects, but they must be vetted. And they were vetted by our legal counsel, isn't that correct?
That is correct, Judge, yes. There was one project that we had proposed at a park that the council did not agree with, and that was removed even before coming back to the court with a presentation,
Right.
so.
So wherever there's ancillary, it has to have a nexus between
Right.
what I would
Yes.
call the mother contract and then the satellite one.
Yes, ma'am.
And then on outdoor lighting, there was a motion about whether or not outdoor lighting would be considered energy savings. And with all the lighting components, it was my recollection from our color scope that all the outdoor lighting would represent energy savings.
It is high-efficiency LED lighting in all cases. We're replacing existing fixtures, which are not. And so there is obviously efficiencies in every light fixture that we've installed.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, those are my questions and comments that I had. So having heard from the court,
Judge, can I ask, I have one more
Yes, of
comment? I
course.
apologize. Going forward, and I understand what counsel said, and that makes sense. Going forward, if we as a court continue to discuss these energy-saving contracts, me personally, as one member of the court, just so you hear it, I have no more interest in doing any projects that aren't energy savings in an energy-saving contract. As he said, the bell has probably been rung on certain things, and I appreciate and respect that, but I just want to be clear, I have no desire going forward to ever include projects that aren't energy savings in an energy savings contract. So just so you know, because I'm sure there will be others that will be presented, and just so everybody else knows, and again, I'm only one person, and I'm just wanting to state it out loud and clearly so that I don't mess up on anything like that again. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
okay,
Judge, I have a question.
yes, sir?
Yes, sir, Mr. Bailey. How much percentage of work has been done on the amphitheater, saying that you had to move it and not place it where you originally wanted to?
At this point, we've done a lot of design work, is what's been done on that particular item. You're correct, construction has not commenced on that at this point, but we've been working in the design phase. Is there anything else, Mike, that I'm missing? You may.
If you wouldn't mind, if you have to take the mic, only so that we can have you properly recording. I know that there's some turf that has been spec'd.
For the most part, that's correct. The work is engineering. Obviously, we've been through multiple iterations from contract award to where we sit today. Right now, it resides in where is the best fit for that facility at the fairgrounds. And we're trying to work with the county judge, the fairgrounds, Public Works, to make sure that it's in the right location before we put a shovel in the ground and start work. So again, that collaborative effort between us to do the right thing and bring the right project to the county with the overall benefits and meet your expectations is our goal.
So the redesign that you're gonna do is of no expense to the county?
That's correct. We're working right now with the engineering team to look at mirroring, flipping it across that main walkway. We haven't gotten to the determination if it's a zero-cost change. The other thing to note is that it is capable of being built where it is physically cited in the contract documents. There were some concerns, and we're trying to address those concerns, but our goal is to try and incorporate the change and the move at no cost to the county. Can I say here right now, is there a change, is there a cost change? I cannot confirm until we finalize what that design is going to look like, the features, and the impact of moving it, right? And the one piece is that the elevation, there's gonna be a lot of backfilling to flip it to the other side, so we're just trying to finish getting all the elevations shot and make sure of what, if there is a cost impact, what it will be.
But it's
So-
not a mile away, it's
so
several
thi-
hundred feet away.
Correct, it's just flipping it to the other side of where the flags are on
Right.
the walkway.
So if this court decided they want to put a stop to this amphitheater, we would just be responsible for what you've done so far. And it probably wouldn't include the design because it was worthless to us.
Well, let me just say that that is completely contrary to what Mr. Becker said just a moment
But
ago.
it's a good question, Judge, because what he's saying is all they've done so far on this particular project that I am very sketchy on supporting and don't remember discussing that before, and I know it was in the contract. It's a very good question, and maybe the question should be, what projects have we just done design work on? Because if the county has to eat some design work only to save or move those dollars, let's say, to another energy-saving project instead, because I don't believe that is a appropriate energy-saving project, because it's an additional facility, then that would be something I'd be very interested in seeing, not only on the amphitheater, but anything else. I'm not opposed to looking at other energy-saving projects within the scope, because even though the bell has rung, using your council's wording, it really hasn't on the projects that have just been spent money on design. Yes, we would be throwing that away, I get that, but the cost of an amphitheater over 30 years is going to be enormous to this county, maintenance, oversight, things of that nature. So to me, it might be worth looking at unringing the bell a little bit on some projects that have only had design work, and not necessarily reducing the contract amount, because, and I want to hear more from our council, my purpose originally, again, was to, how can I get some general fund relief? Okay, it wasn't, that was the original intent, and so if I can figure out how to get some general fund relief, which we've been provided some alternatives, and I can look at some energy saving projects to substitute in for some non-energy saving projects, and I'm simplifying it, I get it.
Right.
And if I can substitute some non-energy saving projects and put in some energy saving projects, that might make our energy savings, cost savings go up, because we have some more energy savings projects in there rather than non-energy savings projects, which in retrospect, and again, I was there, I'm taking responsibility, I wish we hadn't have done it this way. And like I said, I wish we would have made them all energy saving projects only, my bad. But we didn't, so if there's a way to mitigate, maybe not completely do away with, and maybe it's not unringing the bell, but it's, I don't know, chiming the bell a little differently, however, then I think we need to look at those kind of things. And so maybe the
So-
question should be, what are the projects that we just, in the design phase, that aren't energy-saving projects? And it may only be the amphitheater, I don't know, I'd have to go back and break it down, but I think Commissioner Hernandez brings up a very, very good point on that.
Well, and I respectfully would like the opportunity to discuss what you think is a good point in executive session, so we can hear from our counsel, and I can also point out that that is, in my opinion, not possible, but I would like to make sure that you understand legally what my reasonings are.
Sure, that's fine.
And I think that that would be my ask of you, that that is not a potential. And I would also like to point out that it's the amphitheater that may not have energy savings, but it has revenue upward mobility. And so when, and again, we can discuss that. It's not really legal, so if you don't mind, I'll just point that out, that it is my belief that only the landscaping, the paving, and the amphitheater represent the bulk of 95 or 99%. I don't have it in front of me, but knowing that I know the project very well, that those are the three elements that do not represent energy savings. And we've already discussed the importance of paving in general to any of our county facilities. And landscaping is incredibly de minimis to the entire scope of the project. And of course, typically goes part and parcel with it. You typically don't work a building's exterior and not consider some landscaping. However, it is minor compared to the overall contract. So that leaves us with the amphitheater. And the purpose of the amphitheater, which was completely disclosed 8 times in court in the different presentations, specifically, we discussed how that's the piece that has revenue. So you don't just get revenue from energy savings. When you have an ancillary project that's allowed under the statute, it's an opportunity to say, hey, while we're here on premise, we can utilize the contractors that we have to do a project that could also create revenue. And just like, for example, and I know you understand the analogy, just like the coast and coastal parks has a pier that gets revenue, there are assets to this county that over time can completely provide a rate of return.
But I don't remember us having a discussion on the analysis that shows that rate of return on that amphitheater. I may have
Right.
misspoke on
Well,
what I
we-
was
we
trying,
dis-
and I apologize.
I
don't
understand.
remember that.
I understand.
don't remember that.
No, I understand you don't remember, but I'm saying that we discussed it with regards to branding. There is any type of, in fact, I just got notice today that Global Spectrum has just merged with a company that specializes in entertainment venues. And so when you have an asset like the fairgrounds that is incredibly valuable from an emergency management point of view, I also understand that any asset, just like any home, needs to be updated if you want to sell it. And I don't mean like physically sell it, give it, for a price. I'm talking about sell it to a tenant or to somebody who comes in and wants to rent it, because that's how we lower the cost of our operation and maintenance out there. But make no mistake, all counties that are our size, and many of them much, much smaller, including our neighbors, have extensive fairgrounds. And the reason is that we have an extensive history in 4-H, in junior livestock show. In fact, we are the largest in the state. And so because of our history, those fairgrounds have things that may not make you a lot of money, but that are very vital to the community that we serve. However, if you're going to scratch your head and say, gosh, but over time, we've got to figure out how to keep maintaining it so that we keep becoming the location that gets rented to offset the needs that we have,
And Judge,
then you've got to find upward mobility. So
No.
that's the purpose. Excuse me one second.
Sorry.
It's all right, I'll be right there with you. By the way, I'm installing those wonderful little buttons so that we can do a better job as a court, where we get to say, how you call. Daryl's been kind enough to order those for us or get those done. And that way, when you guys have a question or you want to say something, the light will come on, and then I will pause and I will call on you. And we can have decorum again. That'll be good for all of us. So I'm going to do my best, looking left and looking right, and looking at my audience. They say that women have eyes in the back of their heads, but contrary to public belief, I do not. So I have to just give me, as they say, give me just a second. But that upward mobility needs to be stated. And I realize that there is a desire to extract something to save dollars. But again, let's go into our executive session to discuss that. I do not believe that to be a legal or viable or economic option. And that has a lot to do with contract law. But at any rate, I do want you to know, and it's important, that amphitheater, again, COVID-19 has changed our world. And the way we rent facilities now, it really prompts outdoor venues. It turns out to be a really big asset. And so that was the theory of the case in June of 2019. And it was born by ABM going, you asked Commissioner Hernandez how it came about that these projects got scoped. Well, they started with a capital improvement plan, and then ABM went to Public Works and worked for a year with all the commissioners. And the one thing I love to say about Commissioner Chesney is you're very consistent. You had no interest in any projects in your area, and that was fine, and that was respected. But Commissioners Vaughn, Modis, and believe it or not, Gonzalez all had presentations given to them by ABM regarding projects that could do both, provide energy savings and provide amenities to their constituents. And if you're going to borrow $30 million, it seemed logical that there would be a small percentage, 5%, given to major improvements for the county. And that was the nature of it. And so I think it's important to understand the history and understand the rationale behind commissioners. It just happens to be at the fairgrounds, but it's in Commissioner Modis's precinct, that they too wish to have amenities that are beautiful. They wish to have amenities that are usable, and for this life that we live where outdoors are better. And they also wish to have amenities that are revenue producing, just like the coast. And I think when we look at the balancing act, that seems very equitable to me. And that was the premise, that it was here. And it's just important to see it in that, at least have that one perspective presented. You don't have to agree, but that perspective needs to be at least, provided to you. So I'd like to know if it's the pleasure of the court to go into executive session
I'd
now.
like to make a recommendation, Judge.
I just have a comment to that, to respond.
But, excuse me 1 second, I'd like to ask about the executive session, because we need to discuss legal, but I'd like to get through some of the other grants.
I'd like to make a recommendation, Judge, if you don't mind. We're gonna have to have a button to time limit speaking to, but.
Well, that'd be
I'd like
nice.
to- I'd like to just mention this, whatever it's worth. I was scratching my head and I thought about it. We have a ballpark there. That'd be a perfect theater. You got the stadium, you got the sound system, you got, the field. What more of a theater do you want that you can put out in the field? You want a stage, but that's where it goes. I'm just saying, you got your seating, you got your lighting, you got your speakers, you got everything there. I don't know if anybody thought about that or not, but.
We did. It has a capital improvement plan. If you'll look at your CIP, it's
All
over
right, well,
$5 million
okay,
to improve.
I'm just asking the gentleman.
I know, well, the answer is we did think about it,
Well,
and it was
never brought up
presented to
us. I
you.
wish I would have known.
It was presented to you
It wasn't, not the
in the
field.
CIP. At any rate, Commissioner Chesney,
I was just gonna say, Judge, I just wanted to make just a slight addition to what you said. It wasn't that I wasn't interested in the projects for my precinct. I was not interested in any that were presented to me, quite honestly.
Okay.
They were not ones that were very appealing on an energy savings proposal, and they just weren't very appealing. And then it never came back around to include any after that. I just basically said no to those and then didn't have any came back. So I
Right.
want to make just.
sure,
to
and you
clear- it's a
met
slight-
with ABM.
Yeah, it's just a slight clarification.
Okay.
I couldn't, because I said, I can't think of any that are energy savings, and present some, and some
Right.
presented, and I just didn't think it was worth spending the money on what they presented. And so that was the point on that. But, again, if we have to, and we'll talk about it in legal, but if we have to stick with the amphitheater, if we have to, and there's no way around it, then I think it would be worth looking at, because I don't know what we're ever gonna, I know what's on the CIP plan, but I don't know what we're really ever gonna do at that baseball stadium, so it might be worth, taking a look at, because I don't think there's anything to do at that baseball stadium, and, someone else may, and I know Del Mar may play someday, and I know there's a lot of ifs and maybes and whatever, but that thing sat there forever with very little use, and it's not in very good shape, and, maybe if we're, and I don't mean to use, I won't say the word, if we have to stay with the amphitheater based on contractual language, as the judge suggests, then maybe we should look at moving it over there and using some of the stuff we have there, because you could put a cool stage in the middle of that baseball field, and you have the lights and you have the bleachers, and, let's think outside the box a little bit if we have to have it. So I don't think that's a bad idea to talk about. So
Okay,
that's all.
all right.
I'm ready to interview.
Sure, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike
Second,
Moriarty.
Michael. Sorry, Mike,
Too many
two.
Michaels. So first, I want to say with respect to the engineering for the amphitheater, it was at the request of Public Works we move it. It wasn't an ABM decision. So, and I'm not sure if I heard correctly, there was a question on whether you should pay for the engineering. I've got a contract to a local Corpus Christi engineering firm. Are you asking me not to pay them? I'm hoping not.
No, we're saying if that was all we had to pay, was the
Right.
comment, not to pay somebody that you have a contract with.
Right, and that's all under contract. The second point, Judge, you made you commented briefly on the fact of economies of scale for construction, right? The amount of work being done at the fairgrounds to take advantage of the project management, the supervision, the safety staff on site, right, comes into play. And it was very smart to be able to utilize those resources to the greatest benefit of the county and not do these as singular small projects. So again, there are great economies of scale, right? And then the last thing I would say would be that, at the end of the day, there was a lot of benefits to having that amphitheater. We agree. Don't forget about job creation, right? There's going to be venues. There's going to be people needing to work concessions. All those things, I'm assuming, went into a decision and discussion with the court. We're here to help you however we can. We just want to make sure you're aware of when you make a decision, the dominoes that are set into effect.
Fair enough.
Excuse me,
Okay,
Judge.
thank you very
Judge, I have
much.
one more question. I don't think it's fair to Mr. Pimentel, Public Works. In talking to Mr. Pimentel, he told me that y'all were gonna place that amphitheater on top where all the utilities are, okay? And talking to him, he said that that was not the right thing to do, and y'all agreed, and y'all were gonna look, see where else you could place it, okay? But, and I understand, I'm not an engineer, I'm just going by what Mr. Pimentel, that is an engineer, is telling us that y'all were gonna put all that concrete on top of the utilities, and if we ever had a problem, what do you think was gonna happen?
I'll leave that up to the engineers, and that's why we opened up discussion with the engineers to see if there was an opportunity before we put a shovel in the ground. I'm as well, I'm not a mechanical or electrical engineer by trade, but I will say that I will defer to the engineering team and on to whether or not what is acceptable, not acceptable.
I'm just referring that you said Public Works asked you
That's
to
correct.
move it. They simply alerted you where you all were gonna put it, okay? That's all. Y'all decided.
I think we all concur as a
Yeah.
team that the movement to the 100 feet to the east is a really smart move from an aesthetic point of view. There were issues that were brought up initially that we wanted to be close to the ballroom so that weddings could then have receptions, graduations could then have receptions. There was a concept that was first presented that upon retrospect, there was a better choice by moving it. You gained two or three things. It wasn't that it was going to be on top of utilities, is that you would have to be accessing utilities. And there were some water lines that really would be beneficial for everybody. And that's why there's sort of a program management team, there's a public works team, and there's the contractors. And when they all sit together and they all say, hey, no harm, no foul, let's move it over 50 feet, it makes sense. These are not even changes that come to court. These are just changes that are made in the field in the best interest of the project. So I don't think anybody's saying anything, but we all agree as far as that goes. We'll just move on. What I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna try to tackle the court. There's a lot of department heads that are here. And so I'd ask, that we move, forward to Maria Bedia is here to do regular agenda item number 3, receive overview and discuss permissible uses of ARPA. And, Maria, you've got a document that needs to be turned in tomorrow. I asked you to make the court aware, so that's what we're doing here. But also, Maria, there's a discuss and consider prioritization and allocation, including new positions and reclassifications. And so I'll take that piece of it, but if you would start us off with the draft that you've prepared, we would appreciate it.
Sure, so good afternoon.
And this is
So
3A3?
this would be.
It is, sorry, 3A3 for the court and the
We
clerk.
get backup for that? Because I don't have,
So
Say it
it's,
again.
do we get backup for that? Did I just get it?
Did we get backup?
Or are we just not getting backup?
Okay,
yes,
so,
so, there wasn't backup for that item. Actually, 2A3 and 2B1 are somewhat related, so we're actually gonna do
right.
2B1.
And so that they're not nervous about it, just so you know, this is just a reporting that's done. This is not anything except for we have a job to do for Treasury. All 254 counties that got money have to do this, and this does not mean, this is very general, very, very general, based upon our own court's discussions. This doesn't commit the court to anything, except for just to tell Treasury what we've been doing, what we're up to, and how we're coming up with a plan. Maria?
Yes, so the backup, that should be in your packets that I attached to the agenda item last week, again, it's for 2B1, item 2B1. And it is an initial recovery plan, performance report that is due to the Treasury by tomorrow. We wanted to bring it before the court, even though I consider it a performance report, we wanted to bring it before the court because it does have to be published on our county website. The report is due tomorrow. It's really, this is again, our initial plan, since we are still working through and Haggerty's still working on, the phases of engagement for community engagement, a needs assessment, until we get into that strategic framework of the money that we're gonna be spending for ARPA dollars. Again, this is our initial report. It's due annually, but we can update it as much as possible. So we just kind of left it in very general terms based on kind of the discussions that Haggerty has had with the judge and each commissioner. Again, we're wanting to touch each one of the eligible uses. We already know that we want to spend,
So move, you got dirty by tomorrow.
okay, great. That works for me. What's before you is the latest draft. Yeah, what's before you is the latest draft. I did expand upon the uses a little bit more, but again, it's just kind of an overview of where, the discussions have been so far regarding the use of these dollars. We will update it and submit it to the Treasury once again the court decides on a final strategic framework plan.
I think Treasury wants to know that you're acknowledging, that you're working on it, that you've got some ideas. And that's really what this is all about. I'm on a listserv with all the judges, and I've gotten like 100 today. The only, just, how are you doing it? How are you doing it? How are you doing it? The only thing I would ask you is that one judge brought up that he wasn't going to list lost revenues, only to say that they are calculating lost revenues. And you made mention of that, I think, in here. Is that correct? I don't remember.
The language being used for revenue replacement is, so I use the language recovering lost revenue as of particular interest to the Commissioners Court.
Perfect.
As the pandemic continues. I did say, this can certainly assist the county in temporarily offsetting some general government services costs so that the focus can remain on the COVID-19 response.
Great, great.
So if that's acceptable,
Yeah.
that'll remain in there. So it won't take, I've already alerted Information Technology and talked to Daryl about posting this on the website. So if there are any final comments to be made, please share them with me. I'd like to get it posted, before, obviously it has to be posted before the end of the day tomorrow, so.
And you've tested they were also just saying that they were having trouble with the portal. So just try it early in the morning. Make sure you're not having any trouble with the portal.
Okay.
I think some of the judges said that whatever glitch there was today, that it got fixed, but. And the other
Okay.
thing is that you've had an opportunity to review this with Haggerty and
Yes.
they
So
feel like,
reporting isn't part of Haggerty's scope right now, only
Right.
because, again, they were hired to
Right.
kind of help us develop the uses of the plan. Obviously, once, that plan is developed, we're talking about an RFP for project program management, so we can manage all these projects that will come out from the ARPA dollars, and then we'll pass on the reporting requirement to that vendor.
okay, great.
Maria, I have a
Yes.
question. Some of these funds, will they be able to be utilized for parks?
That can be under the lost revenue category, because that's general government services. So generally, that's not allowed. But again, when we're looking at the lost revenue recovery, that can be used it's a little more broad.
So you're saying it probably can be used for parks
It could, yes, potentially.
and,
But let me
The-
let me just back up just for a second. It can be used for government services. That's different than, like, let's say, playground equipment. Or so your question is very broad and she's answering it
well,
correctly.
I'm asking things such as, parking lots,
If it's
Walking trails.
walking trails that I have there like at
Government services.
Hilltop.
Again, generally, under the lost revenue kind of category, again, if it's related to a government service, yes. There is, and I can speak with you offline, actually, I did just discover that Texas Parks and Wildlife has some outdoor recreation funds that just came available, so they just opened up that.
And it's gonna be I would love for it to cover those areas, but I don't see how, it depends on the definition of government service, and that's something that we have asked Treasury. Maria's not gonna be able to answer that because Treasury hasn't given us the guidance, but we're working on it to
Well,
see if
says-
it would cover it.
I'm sorry, it says here rain events, like the latest rain events that we've had, okay? Like,
That was in reference to the water and sewer infrastructure
Okay.
category.
okay, over in Hilltop on the walking trail on that creek that's there, okay, it flooded and it exposed a big sewer, line, okay? So would that be covered?
That would be under the water and sewer infrastructure category.
Okay, because we
So
do-
there's four main categories. If you remember, Haggerty had shared just kind of this one slide, and I can send it to you again, where it's, you know, it's COVID, public health, addressing negative economic impacts, it's the lost revenue, and then there's a water and sewer, component as well, and then premium pay.
And that sewer line might be a Corpus Christi line, so again, we're not gonna be paying for Corpus Christi's lines. There
No,
might
no,
be some.
No, we're not, but we're in discussion right now. They're undecided who it belongs to. And if that,
If it
line
belongs to
breaks,
us.
it's made out of clay. Then we're asking
Yeah.
for bigger problems than what, you know.
Right, if it belongs to us, then that would definitely qualify. A water infrastructure qualifies.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so are there any other questions? Maria will get this in the portal. And again, you're always welcome to email her. I hate to say this, Maria, but they can't email you tonight because we're not gonna do it till probably lunch. But again, it's general, you were gonna be doing this quarterly, is that right?
It's actually required annually, but you can update as often
Okay,
as
I think
you
we'll
please.
probably update it as often as we update it ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a motion to receive? Yes, a motion for Gonzalez. Was there a second to submit this? Okay.
Second.
Yes, you heard it? Okay, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, post same
Aye.
sign. Okay, and so the next piece of this is consider project prioritization and allocation of ARPA funds. You'll recall last court, we actually did some of this with the county attorney's positions. We also had the lifeguard services. We also had the risk assessment. Those were three prioritizations that the court made accommodations for. And so what I wanted to do today is at least highlight that there are other positions that might relieve budget considerations if they were to be considered in a prioritization. And that would be the emergency management, disaster recovery specialist, the planner for emergency management. And Teresa, forgive me, but I may have left my notes on my desk. And the constable for precinct 4.
Yeah.
And it could be a variety of things. It doesn't have to be a constable, it could be a contract for
Security services.
security.
Deputy.
But it's up to you, not to you, but it's up to us to think about how that would work. Again, I'm just trying to put it in as a prioritization, and we can figure it out later.
Maybe we should put in a concept, and let me talk to
I think that's
Constable
fair.
Sherwood, Constable Sherwood, and kind of get his input, because
I
that
think
would be
that's fair. I
helpful.
think security is what I'm really looking
No,
for.
right, because services, anything, and really, Judge, you kind of wonder if that's not something we could do with the emergency management positions, or any of these kind of things that we put in as kind of a contract basis, because if we create a position and then it goes away,
Yeah.
because the ARPA funds go away, so maybe we should do that with,
Well, that's what I just said. I said, could we do it with
Sorry.
recovery specialist?
My bad.
Planner?
good idea.
And that's all right.
That's a great
I
idea.
realize it is, if it's yours, it's great. I love it.
No, it's
Just-
yours,
I'll
I'm
take
saying
it.
it's yours.
I'll take it. Those were the three. There might have been four. I feel like there was a fourth one, Teresa, but those are the three that come to my mind right now as prioritization to add to and that way, they don't have to be considered as part of the budget.
Right, and then, yeah. 'cause
And
the
if there's
lifeguards,
more,
that's-
then we can put them more, but those were the ones that we talked about. And,
I'll talk to Constable Sherwood about that, Judge, and get
but
you
in
some input on
concept,
that.
is that something that you would maybe consider making a motion to prioritize today?
As a
It doesn't have
concept,
to be,
Sure, I would move as a concept to put the concepts in and to discuss whether or not they need to be positions or contract labor,
Right.
for lack
That's
of a better
right.
way of
That's
making
correct.
a motion, if that is
But they
clear.
can hire
for the
two
court.
contract laborers for one.
Yeah,
well,
Right.
yeah,
No,
that,
right.
however it turns out,
just
but the
a-
idea is
yes.
you're letting Dale know, hey,
Yes.
Dale, you don't have to consider those because we are gonna prioritize those, and again, because security's gonna be an issue on that 3,600 acres. And we've got to figure out how to make that work. So is that,
That's a motion.
okay?
If it was clear, I'll try it again if it wasn't. Did that okay for the clerk? That was
Yeah,
a
go
little-
ahead and do,
A little long, but I would just move that we, for the
In
emergency
concept.
management positions and the constable position on the Clayburgh land, that those funds be used in some form, whether it be employees or contract labor, out of the ARPA funds. That wasn't bad.
that's
my
pretty
motion.
good, actually. That's really good.
That was better than the first try.
Second long one.
And again, we can come back and make it more formal, but that way we're making a prioritization today.
And let the record reflect, it was the judge's idea. I like it.
Okay, well, I think that.
Good.
I think we have to be very mindful about which ones, and as you just said it perfectly, maybe these aren't positions you need all the time, or maybe you want to have a different mindset in 2 years. But at least for this year, fiscal year, it's a relief on it's a relief on the budget, and it still accomplishes what you need it to. Okay, well, I'm gonna second it, since it was your idea. And then,
Second it.
I've got, oh, he already seconded, okay, all right, motion and a second. And then all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And we have another meeting on the 8th. If you guys think about
Yeah, get
another
that
one.
big John
just-
Mara's face off the screen, please. Thank you very much. That was a little, that scared me. I'm sorry, Judge.
And then if there are others that get identified, Dale, through the budget process, if there's another one you'd say, I think this one's also key, if you don't mind, you could
I've got a
schedule.
list that I've already got separated, what was gonna be in there. You said the county attorney's position, there are two attorneys and one legal assistant
Yes.
position. We proposed putting the PIO there.
Right?
And then also the ones you talked about, emergency management positions, I can definitely include a constable deputy or
Or security.
a security function. We also put in some temporary services for our veteran services
That's
agents.
it.
So that's the ones I've got on the
Oh,
list. that I'll
I just
be brought to you.
remembered. I just remembered the fourth one. You just, and I should have remembered it when I saw Angelica, but it is that, you're gonna hear about this in a minute. So I'll just say it, then we'll hold when we get to grants, but we were notified that we lost a very important grant for victim assistance coordination, but we have the ability to take care of that, and this, I think we'll get this grant back in a year. And if we could take care of that in the ARPA funds, then we don't lose a beat on helping the continuum of services that are provided. In fact, it expires tomorrow, August 31st.
I believe you have those positions on D, 1 and 2.
Right, so we're gonna get there, but again, that would be the prior, we can get to there when we get to D1 and 2, but unless you wanna add them right now.
Well, I'm confused. I thought that was the one where I got an email from Mark saying not to worry about these, but I may be thinking of the wrong one.
No, he did say that, and I wrote back and said, we have a solution to help. I don't know why we would wanna stop doing victims. I think he's worried about money from the email,
Which I appreciate.
and I appreciate that, but I want him to worry more about victims.
Okay, well, so
I
then, well,
got,
no,
I got both of them on the.
yeah,
ARPA.
let's do those when, because then Elka's here and she can comment and I'd
Yeah,
like to just
we'll
do the
get
ones
to
we
that one,
haven't,
I
and
guess,
let's
but,
hear from- yeah, that's
so
okay.
let's just do we'll wait on those till we get to the D2, so, yes.
Sorry?
the ARPA.
Yeah, that one's there, the risk assessment. That one we did last court. Okay, so anyway, all those in favor of signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. So we'll add those to the prioritization, Dale, okay? And then let's move to grants. And, we already did that one. We already did that. And then purchasing, Michael, C1.
And can I just have questions on this one too that I want to ask Jenny before we get too far into this, because I'm still trying to understand, and hold on before I see all that, because I don't want anybody to think I'm doing this because I've seen anything. I'm just still needing to ask Jenny, one, can you not do this? And two, what exactly does this, in your opinion, do for the county, and is it truly needed in your opinion? Because this is a legal thing, and I still don't have that question answered, so I don't want to get the documents, because I don't know who's getting selected, and I don't really care about that. I'm just wondering if we
So
can
do you
get
want to
the-
do that in executive session?
Well, I'd rather do it before I see that, because I don't want anybody to
Okay,
accuse me of.
I can skip C1. Let's
okay.
skip it, and I'll just
Okay,
move on.
I just-
Michael, if you'll
right.
just hold, please. Let's go to D1. D1 is discuss and consider funding Department 2001, which is the OVAG. That's the victim assistance that we were just talking about. And 2 temporary positions, 29 hours a week for the month of September 2021. I'll have Julie tell us about the dollars and cents. Do you want to have the dollars and cents there? My bad there. So this is exactly what we just discussed is we lost that grant. Or Maria, do you want to set the stage for the grant and then let Julie, just tell everybody what happened?
So the other victim assistance grant, we call it OVAG, is through, the Office of the Attorney General. It was a 2-year grant, for $42,000 a year. The first year covered, 2 part-time crime victim, restitution analysts, as well as some supplies. The second year was the same thing. Unfortunately, we have not been given a reason yet on why we were not funded this year. We met all the performance benchmarks, we met all the expenditure benchmarks. However, for one reason or another, we were notified that we were not, approved for funding this year. This grant does come available every year, so we will reapply for next year. So, yeah, unfortunately, they weren't funded, but yeah, they're 2 part-time crime victim
And
restitution analysts.
we did meet our metrics.
Yes, we met performance, expenditure. Again, I was hoping to get an answer back from the OAG's office by now on the reasoning why we were not funded, but I do know that a lot of, unfortunately, it's very unfortunate, but a lot of victim assistance funds have been cut this past year.
And does this qualify, Dale?
Yes, so I believe it would under governmental services. We're covering looking the balances with Haggerty's on this, so it's definitely a governmental service to provide the services we need.
And then can anybody remind us of the dollars and cents? Here it comes. And then Angelica, if you want to make some comments, you don't have to, but if you want to.
For the month of September, it would cost us about $3,900.
But we're talking about for the whole year, right?
Well, yeah,
Just for
but
the month of
it
September.
ends tomorrow, so we gotta cover this 1 month.
That follows the state fiscal year. Their fiscal year ends in October, August, so ours ends in September, so it's 1 month ending of September.
And then
And
for
then we
the
would wanna
following
consider-
year,
Following year.
for the following year, for the 2 positions to fund it at 29 hours a week, I have about $45,500 for the 2 positions.
Yeah, I'd just like to hear, because that's what Angelica says if she wants to talk, and I don't mean to put her on the spot if she doesn't want to,
Okay.
so. what-
And that's for 2, right? The 45 is for 2. Okay.
That's correct, yes.
They are 2 part-time positions. And so Mark and I had talked about it. I just got off the phone with him right now.
Can you pull the mic up a little bit, please? Thank you, sorry.
Sure. I think he's jumping on YouTube to at least try to watch what's going on. But our priority has been trying to get our budget settled. And we've been working with Dale on issues that have come up. And we're really trying to safeguard positions in the office. Our office, as Judge said, serving the victims is a primary responsibility of the DA's office and one we take very, very seriously. And Cheryl Rodriguez has done a great job with the grants, and she's worked with Maria on those grants. Our understanding is we lost it by less than 1 point for whatever reason. But I know it's not from a lack of diligence on the part of Maria or Shara or the office. I'm guessing funds were slim and they just heightened, the point gap. What Mark wants to make sure, and what he's telling me is, we just don't want anything in our budget to change. We don't want to be responsible for these positions later on. We don't want our numbers to change right now. We're desperately trying to keep them where they are to ensure we safeguard everything in 1323 in those positions that we're requesting to move into 3520. And if we add 45 grand onto the budget for next year, then where does that leave us in terms of our ask, and how does that affect our ask? So like, for example, the grant positions don't show up on our budget because they come out of a different area, so we don't have to worry about them. But are these positions gonna be like those, where they don't appear on our budget and they're not affecting our budget, and they just are positions in our office like the other grant positions where they just kinda fly off the radar, or are these going onto our budget?
That's a good question.
But what I said to Mark was that American Relief Plan Act has nothing to do with your budget. And that was the whole thing, is that there's no difference between this one. You could categorize it, in my opinion, as mental health. I wouldn't even, I mean, you could maybe put it into multiple buckets here under government services and/or decrease in, I mean, there's so many different areas, but the whole idea is that I don't think we ought to have I remember the day that Shara came in here with a whole bunch of DAs really begging this court to make certain we made an investment for victims. And I remember the day that the woman came in telling us how we basically were not doing enough to help victims' assistance.
I think she's just asking about her budget. No one's.
No, I know, but I think it's really important that we not even, I'm actually, and it's okay to disagree, but I have to make sure that nobody hears this. It doesn't matter to me, even if it were to affect your salaries increases or some of that. I mean, you've got to come in here begging for victims' rights and asking this court to do everything in their power. It should not be a budgetary thing. We're the ones that worry about the budget. And I really feel like that needs to be, I want the victims to hear this loud and clear. We would do anything and everything to make sure that these positions stay intact.
But with all due respect, when we talk about the budget, it is the attorneys of the DA's office that fight for the victims on a daily basis, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right.
So we can't part and parcel and say only victim assistant coordinators or victim restitution analysts are the ones that are, championing the victims. It's the attorneys.
Well,
And
right.
so when we have to look at dollars and we have to look at prioritizing, because no one's gonna get their Christmas list, then my attorneys can step in, Mark's attorneys can step in, and they can fill the gap on the restitution, because these are restitution positions. They're not victim assistance coordinators. They're restitution. They're the ones who determine how
Right.
we make our victims whole. I expect the attorneys to do that on a daily basis. I expect them to ensure that conditions of probation contain restitution amounts so that our victims
But
are made
you've told
whole.
us that you're backlogged, overwhelmed, and understaffed.
On cases, on file, well, no, we're not backlogged on our intake anymore. Our intake is caught up to date. We're backlogged on cases in jail and trials, and needing to make sure we have attorneys that are competent and experienced who can take those cases to trial. Our murders and aggravated assaults, which is why the attorneys become the priority. But at the end of the day, we'll take it so long as it's not in the budget. I mean, and if I can have just a second, I can call Mark again and just make sure he's still on the same page.
Well, I talked to him a little while ago, but I also emailed him back immediately because I think American Relief Plan would not affect your budget. So you're not opposed if we help with victim restitution, if it has nothing to do with your budget, right?
Correct,
You would be happy about that, wouldn't you?
correct.
Okay, well then,
Totally different budget.
as they say, so
Dale,
moved.
does it affect her budget? That's all she asked.
These funds, if we consider them, American Rescue Plan is considered a grant fund. So these will be part of that grant fund and will not be a part of the general fund of the district attorney.
I think that's all she asked, so if that's okay with you.
That's
then
what I
I'll-
had asked at the beginning, so long as it doesn't affect the fund, our budget, and it is gonna be similar to what the grants are, then that was Mark's initial deal, is we're good to go.
So I would make the motion.
All right,
to
I've
include
motioned
those.
it, so how about a second then?
Second, sure.
Okay, motion and a second. And all those in favor signify by saying aye, and for the clerk, that would be to.
Aye.
Thank you, aye, to prioritize those two temporary positions as articulated as victim assistance, temporary positions, 29 hours a week, FY 21-22.
Is this for one and two? Because you have one for, there's two. There's two items.
I'm sorry, I'm reading one. I'm sorry, I'm reading two, but I mean one,
Okay.
right, okay?
Then with the DA's office, thanks, County Judge Canales, for finding an additional funding source, and to the commissioners for approving it, and finding a way to achieve this without affecting the budget. We are very grateful.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So
And-
that was, now Dale, well, let me just ask you something. What I meant,
No, that's for the
Kara,
month
For
I
a
meant
month and the following
a
fiscal
month
year.
plus,
And that was my second, too.
unless, you know, Dale thought it was, it's a minimal amount for, it's up
Small
to,
amount, we have to consider the end of this fiscal year for the ending part, because the grant ends before our year, and then the following year, but if the grants division is able to acquire a new grant, then we can transfer it there.
okay. So it is for both then? Is that the courts, is that?
Yes, ma'am, that's my
Yes.
second.
Okay, so it's 1 month plus 1 year?
Yes, ma'am.
Kara? Okay.
With,
We
obviously.
did, I'm sorry.
We're gonna go back and try
We
to get
did
it.
combine.
We're gonna
Is
go
that all
back.
right?
And then they're gonna go back, we're gonna go back and try to get the OVAG, grant.
Correct. Once,
Yeah.
if we get
We'll
that grant back,
reapply
we
in
can
March.
reestablish that back like it
And as a
was.
matter of fact, I want you to know that there's certain things that get my blood moving. And one of them is for the state of Texas to have $12 billion and to say that they don't have enough money. You know, it doesn't jive with me. So I called Senator Hinojosa and I told him about this. And he said, please send him all of the information, Maria, but I'm looking for the official letter, not just my little correspondence email. Send it to Luis Moreno, his chief of staff, so that they can go figure out how it comes to pass that they think that, you know, after denying us the veterans grant, after denying us the victim assistance grant, you know, after not giving us our CRF in total like we were deserved, that they think that that's, you know, and then just for fun, they put in, I don't know how many millions of dollars of unfunded mandates again this year. Somebody needs to push back and say enough. So Senator Hinojosa is ready to fight for us for this grant. It may even be able to be reversed if we write a strong letter. So maybe I'd ask you to work with Angelica, the DA, document the good work that we're doing, and let's get the senator to ask some hard questions.
And if you need any insight, I know Lilia Ann was here. We met with the sheriff this morning on Senate Bill 6. I know Belinda had reached out to our office on it. I know Ms. Dorsey did. That's going to have a lot of impact. So we're
Huge.
happy to, I don't know how,
That one, I'm afraid we're gonna lose, Angelica. Sometimes you just see the tea leaves.
No,
But
I know that, but my fear is they're gonna do what they did with CGIS, and they're gonna tie the monthly
Yeah.
reporting requirements to grant funding.
Right, well, we're still fighting, but it's tough.
Well, we're available, Judge.
Thank you. All right, Maria, if you'll help with that, closing the gaps there. So that's Kara, that was 1 and 2. Yes, you may. And then let's go ahead and do item 3, Julie. This one is important. It also has to do with a piece of legislation and a policy that we need regarding sick leave. Would you go ahead and explain?
This one comes from House Bill 2073, and it's asking that we implement quarantine leave for peace officers and our jailers. And by that, it means that if any of us have asked the jailers to be out due to COVID reasons, we do not want them to be using their sick leave or their vacation leave. So it's asking that the county pay them for those days that they missed. There should be no additional fiscal impact for this because the positions have already been budgeted. So we will not be docking their sick leave or vacation time while they're out, tending to their own needs of quarantine and isolation.
Okay.
However,
and-
there could be a fiscal impact. If we remember the collective bargaining agreements that any of this leave we're paying for now is considered productive time. So if they come back at a later time and then they work overtime and it would be an overtime
Then
expense.
it's an overtime expense.
Probably, yes.
Dale, it does say in the House bill that it won't count as worked hours, they'll count as non-worked hours.
Remember, our collective bargaining agreement says that it's considered productive time, whether
Okay.
they're on leave or not.
In other words, it's not the bill, it's the agreement that
Okay.
causes it. So that's something for y'all to talk about, but either way, it is a law. So what we need, folks, is a policy that reflects it so that, so that the payroll can take care of it and Julie's office can take care of it. So, would somebody like to make a motion, please, regarding this?
This goes back effective to June 15th, Judge. So I'd like to
Okay.
be able to start counting up those hours and getting those hours reimbursed for anybody that has taken sick leave or vacation time already.
And for the clerk, I think it'd be good just to reflect the record that this does comport with House Bill 2073 so that anyone looking at it knows that we did take action today and make this policy. And again, most bills are effective September 1. This one wasn't.
Correct.
And so that's why it's important that you go backwards in time, June 15th. So I hope that, I don't think the sheriff could join us, but I know that we will make certain that after today, if we were to vote in the affirmative, I would call both the Sheriff's Association and the sheriff and let him know that we passed this.
This will also include deputy constables.
I said, is it 2073 or 273?
2073.
Thank you. So,
I don't think we've, did we vote?
motion and,
Yeah, motion and seconded. Yeah.
it was seconded by Gonzalez? Okay, and all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed,
Aye.
same sign.
Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you.
Can
All
I ask you a
right.
question on one that we were talking about earlier? I was trying
Go
to get
ahead.
that input back on the assistant, Dale, on the precinct 4 constable. He also would need if we don't do the private security, which he's indicated we need probably a deputy, and I'm trying to find out why, but also would need a car, which makes sense. Is
Oh,
that
yeah, good point.
Is that a viable expense also?
We currently lease our vehicles through our enterprise. We can work with Michael on that to make sure we have a fleet car available, so it's not a large expense for that. We just need to make sure if it is a leased vehicle, it would almost require to be a constable.
Right, he's saying it needs to be a constable. I'm trying to find out why, but he's also saying, remember, you're gonna need a car also. Is that an expense that, I get we can do it through the leasing plan, but is that an expense that could go towards the ARPA funds, or, okay?
And the only thing I would say, Commissioner, is, you know, the ARPA can carry us 2 years.
Right.
And maybe we need to make sure that we go in eyes wide open. I think it's gonna be needed forever,
Oh,
but I just wanted, I
and
think
I
there
told
should
him
be,
that.
is you tell him that?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
But I mean,
It's
I
like a
would be an
grant-funded
advocate
position,
for the
right.
future. I just want him to know in going.
Right,
that
right,
you-
right, right.
All right, no worries.
I did, I said
Okay.
it was a grant-funded position.
Okay. And again, it would be helpful, just so people don't think we're like, you know, loosey-goosey about it. There are so much data out there showcasing the increases and the justification. I think it's worth it if he will put that together for us. How many more population, how much more traffic, Scott Cross could add to it. That way it gets in the record, hey, this is why we made these decisions. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll add that to the ask.
All right,
And he may have done that I haven't read it in a while, but he may have done that in his budget request, but if he didn't, I'll go back and ask it to be more specific.
okay.
I don't recall Constable 4 requesting position. I believe it was Constable 2 and 5, but,
It's precinct 4, it's constable, Sherwood's 2, I think,
okay,
right?
Constable 2 did
Yeah.
request.
Yeah,
yes.
we always
Sorry.
say it 4 because
No,
of the
right, sorry.
precinct.
Yes,
You're
yeah,
right,
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
little confusing.
My bad.
Okay.
Judge, clarification on the,
Sherwood is 4. Sherwood is 4.
Sherwood's not precinct, I don't think he's,
Yeah.
Sherwood's 4.
Sherwood's,
Precinct 4.
he did request one.
Precinct 2 did.
No, remember you and I talked about on Sherwood, he did request one
Okay.
for the Clayburgh.
Okay, well, let's go back and look at it
Oh, it is
and
4, right.
double check it.
Yeah, he's 4.
Okay. So who's
Yeah.
5?
Okay, well,
Got
you
it.
know, okay, we'll get
All right, it
that
is
straightened
4,
out.
okay.
But wait, Jenny had a
Yes.
question.
I'm looking for clarification on number 3. The law that passed requires that the governing body shall develop and implement a program, a
Policy?
policy. And so is that something that is going to be written? I think it needs to be written down.
It does. Could we impose on you to, I mean, I could make a motion to direct you to write the policy, even though the court's already articulated our will to go back to June 15th, but you're saying we need to have a written
Subject to a
policy.
written ratification, probably needs to be the amendment on our motion, right? Subject to the
Need to
written,
have it
we
written
need, we
down.
do need to see.
Right. But the
We-
policy is just going to reflect what the law requires. I mean, right?
Right, so we passed the concept so that she could go back, but we still need the
Yeah,
written
I
policy.
agree. We need a policy.
And so,
But the only concern I have is being really clear that from the HR perspective, that they'll start working on, I mean, I'm worried about the agreement, the collective bargaining agreement. Just maybe some communication between Sheriff's Association and letting them know what we've taken here in court action and make sure the policy reflects the law.
Okay, and we'll keep Julie Garrett in that loop.
That'd be great.
And I'll CC the court.
Yeah. I imagine that the time is what that clarification that Dale's talking about, that's gonna be the nuance, as opposed to any other county who may not have the same agreement. Okay. I think that's a good clarification. All right, so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to move us into executive session at this time. And I'm giving public notice that we are electing to go into session as authorized by the Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. And we do so in accordance with the Texas Code Sections 551, 071, 72, 73, 74, 745, 76, 86, and 87. And we'll hold an executive session to consult with our attorneys relating to litigation, real property, prospective gifts, personnel matters, including termination, county advisory bodies, security devices, economic development negotiations, and any other matters that may be discussed in executive session. We'll come back into open session and take any appropriate action as was deemed necessary. And 3:29 p.m. is the time. And if I'd ask all of you not in executive session to please clear the courtroom at this time and take our mics off.
On one of them, didn't we need Dale for something?
So,
Okay, then I'm just going to go on, and what we're going to do is move to Michael on item C1, discuss and award the RFQ number 3172-21 to assist with the redistricting process in Nueces County. Michael?
Michael? I can't get up, my hands are full.
Did you bring us back in?
Thank you, ma'am. Forgive me. I'm also declaring at 5:38 p.m. that we're back in full court and record. And again, I'll repeat that I've asked Michael to address item C1 on the agenda.
Okay, item C1 is discuss and award RFQ number 3172-21, which is legal counsel to assist with the redistricting plan. The proposal opening was conducted on August the 20th at 2 p.m. We received 4 proposals, and the selection committee, consisting of Judge Canales, Tyner Little, Belinda Hinojosa-Person, Commissioner Matas, and myself, met and reviewed the candidates, and I have the scoring sheets, which I'm going to send out now. And Brent, are you okay if I send this to you in the form of a email or a text?
I can't see it, but if you want to just read it, you can read it. You can just read how they scored.
Okay, I typically don't read these scores out loud. I don't know
I guess.
how the county attorney would want me to do this.
Is there anything wrong with that? I mean, doesn't it become public information at this point, or I don't know?
I'm okay with it.
if it's part of the, I mean, it's being considered, I believe it would be subject to an open record.
Yeah, typically it's arrived at from an open records request only. It's not published in the minutes
After the award.
after the award.
After the award. Well, can you take a picture of it and send it to his phone?
Yeah, I can do that.
It's coming to you right now.
Okay. I guess, Michael, can you just go through the rationale for the scoring on why someone like Aiken Gump was rated so low? Just curious. That's a pretty worldwide, well-known firm. Do they not have experience, or?
Right, so when the committee reviewed each of the applicants in the area of experience, the items that Aiken Gump presented to us in the committee were varied. They had some examples cited from out of state, but nothing of any substantial size comparable to Nueces County. was presented in their proposal to us. And so, for that reason, they were scored lower in that category. Whereas in the example that was provided to us from Rolando Rios and Associates, they had quite a few examples of doing this exact type of work for counties as large as Dallas County, among many others. And so that's why they received a higher score in that category. And then with regard to Walsh Gallegos, their experience was primarily in school board, school redistricting, and no examples were provided for county redistricting. And then with Olson and Olson, they only provided 2 examples from very small counties. And so in the comparison of all of the 4 folks that have provided proposals to us, we all felt unanimously that Rolando Rios and Associates had the best qualifications for what we need them to do here in Nueces County.
Oh, I think we've lost him. He's driving, he may be in a dead zone.
We'll give him a minute to reconnect. Yeah, I would point out that either it varied from literally no experience presented in the RFQ for counties, or only one small county presented, or in the case of Aiken Gump, as you said, yes, they are a worldwide firm, but they presented no examples of either Texas county redistricting, or quite frankly, any examples from 2010, which is the latest redistricting, that would be even remotely applicable. And what's interesting is that these were the only 4 that we received. And Rolando Rios, I don't have it in front of me because we turn in our materials, but I would say they had over 50 counties that were represented.
There's no quorum right now.
Oh, yeah.
Hello? Yes. Commissioner Jag.
Wonderful.
Hang on, sir. I'm going to put you on speakerphone. Go ahead.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Michael is going to give you a new summary. We're on item 3C1, which is discuss and award the RFQ 3172 to assist with the redistricting process. And Michael, would you provide a quick summary and also text to his phone? We're going to text to your phone a picture of the committee's review and scoring, but Michael has revealed a few things already, and I'm going to ask him to repeat for your benefit right now. Here, give him just a second because he's sending you something.
Okay, well, I'm out here with an adjuster from Laredo. I had an accident on my truck and I'm trying to get it fixed, so.
That's important.
I didn't have an accident today. I mean, I had an accident a week and a half ago.
Okay. Let Michael give you the background. Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, all right.
Okay, Commissioner, we reviewed 4 proposals that were submitted,
Uh-huh.
and those came from Walsh Gallegos, Trevino Kyle, and Robinson PC, Rolando Rios and Associates PLLC, Olson and Olson LLP, and Aiken Gump, Strauss Hauer, and Feld LLP, and Crimcard Consulting Services LLC. And
Is that Rio, the one with Jose Garza?
yes,
Okay.
and we scored the Rolando Rios and Associates with the highest score. We felt that their experience in county redistricting far exceeded the other applicants. In some
Got my vote.
Okay, I'll stop talking.
All right.
Okay, Commissioner Chesney's back on. Just hang on one second. Commissioner Chesney, you were in the mid-sentence when you got cut off.
I don't even know what I was going to ask the other,
Where's the speaker?
the other question was on the other firm, why were they ranked lower? Just same, Michael, just curious. They looked like they might have had some higher levels of experience, but what was the knock on them?
So the knock on them was the experience they provided were only a couple of examples, and they were both from out of state in incomparable counties. They weren't large counties, and they had no examples from here in Texas that were done. So they just fell short in that regard.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, we said that while you were off, that one of them only had exclusive independent school district and provided no examples of county, and the other one only had 1 or 2 examples, whereas Rolando Rios had over 200 federal rights voting cases. So that is what distinguished it. And they had over 50 representations of different counties and cities, and they've done everything, but the counties, including all of the urban counties.
Yeah, and as large as
And I just need to ask, have they done them for counties in a partisan or bipartisan way, as far as have they represented purely courts by dominated by Democrats, or have they done any with Republicans? I'm just curious if there's any, built-in biases that they have here that I need to be concerned about, because unfortunately, whether we like it or not, some days there is partisanship, and I just need to ask those questions.
Yeah, I'm certain that there have been, I've not seen their entire repertoire over the last 30 years, but they've been doing this work for 30 years, so it's my opinion that they've represented courts that have Democrats and Republicans on them, and they have the widest breadth of federal experience when it comes to redistricting. And they've represented people in this manner for the last 30 years.
I'm sorry if I didn't ask it right. I meant, I'm sure every court, well, I'm not sure every court, I'm sure a lot of courts have some. My question was, do you know if they've represented any courts, and if you don't, that's fine, if they've represented any courts that were the majority Republican, or was it all majority Democrats that they represented?
No, I can just.
If you don't know the answer, that's okay too.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not, we don't ask those questions, and we didn't receive that information on the RFQ. I can tell you that Aiken Gump listed the city of Los Angeles, and I know city of Los Angeles in California to be quite a stronghold for Democrats, so it seems that people are in this business to go represent the business of redistricting.
Okay, so Michael, do you know, by any chance, just making sure?
No, that information was not provided as part of the proposal package.
Okay, meaning they provided you who they did,
Which,
and I would have to
a list of,
dig in to see.
a list of counties, yes, was provided to
You have-
us. A
Do you
li-
have that list?
We do,
do.
actually.
I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me because I didn't get that in my packet. If I missed it, my bad.
No, because we don't normally provide the Commissioners
Right.
Court with the proposal package. Normally,
Right.
Would
I
you
just didn't want
mind?
anybody to think I didn't have it because I didn't do my homework. That was all I was saying.
Okay, well, we can certainly provide that list to you at some point in time, but it's extensive and, again, I mean,
I'm just, all I'm trying to look at, and I don't have it to look at because it wasn't provided, is whether they're a fair and balanced representation, or if they primarily represent only Democrat-leaning counties, then I don't know that Republicans get a fair shake, and I don't know that they don't. I just don't know. So I may just
yeah, so we ran an RFQ on experience, not politics. And so the experience is completely lopsided here. They represented in their packet an extremely comprehensive representation, and quite frankly, their analysis as well was far superior.
I don't doubt that. I just have to ask the questions. Like I said, this is the first time I've had to ask partisan questions, and I don't know how long. I can't even remember asking them before, and it's not even a comfortable level of questioning, to be honest. I don't enjoy doing it, so not having that information in front of me, I'll just let y'all vote, and I just may sit this one out and abstain and move on, and just because I don't have all the information needed for me to know the answers to the question, and I don't want to prolong the process. So I know y'all done good work, and I appreciate it.
Understood. In that case,
so the recommendation of the committee is to recommend award to Rolando L. Rios and Associates, PLLC.
okay. And based upon that recommendation, is there such a motion?
So moved.
Okay, there is a motion, and I'll need a second.
For who's that for?
Rolando Rios and Associates.
Commissioner Mott?
Second.
Okay,
Second.
I've got a motion and a second, and all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those
I'll
opposed?
abstain just for not having all the information I needed to make the decision. If that could just be reflected in the record.
If you'll make that reflection, the clerk can please make that reflection, and please note that the absence of Commissioner Hernandez. Okay, and so you will contact that firm, and then also, now that we've made the award, is it now appropriate to provide Commissioner Chesney the information he asks? Which would be, I mean, they could provide to him, right? He could just ask, since it's been awarded?
Yes.
That way, Michael, you don't have to,
I'd like to sit down and meet with them anyway, now that we've awarded them, so that
Right.
I can get it from them.
that'd be
If they can
great.
just, if someone could just, Michael, if you just tell them to reach out to me or my office or something, and I'll get
Yeah.
something set up with them as soon as possible.
I think that's
Certainly.
good, because that way Michael feels like he's kept his processes intact, and you still get everything
Yep.
that you need, and we're gonna make that contact. Okay, and so now let's move on to the last item, which came out of executive session, which was item 2A1. This represents the last item to deal with on this agenda.
I gotta go to the meeting with the adjuster. I gotta
Okay.
go.
All right, thank you.
All right. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir?
And Judge, is 2A1 the ABM?
It is.
Judge, I get that we don't have a full court, and I'm not going to make it in the form of a motion. I'm just going to make a request out of courtesy, because I would like to have the full court available to have these discussions, and that's just simply that we put it back on. And the only issue that I still would like to discuss, because I think that the solutions that the county attorney and the auditor and Blakely and Noe, everybody came up with for the budget situation, I think has a lot of merit that will provide some potential relief there. Possibly, I would just ask out of courtesy that ABM consider the fact that that there is still a desire to discuss at length and let everybody have their say, the amphitheater issue, and I'll put this back on the agenda for the next possible meeting to discuss it. So if as a courtesy, they can just understand that that's the only item that I would still like to have discussion on in regards to that, I would appreciate that courtesy.
Okay, I'm going to extend that to you today, and therefore, there's no motion needed. And I think everybody is sitting here in the audience, something you can't see, but just so you know, I count 5 members of ABM, and so they've heard you, and I think they understand by just their body language, and we will be back in touch. Having no further business, I would ask for adjournments in memory, and
Judge, I had some, but I apologize. I didn't bring them. I will do those also on Wednesday, if that's okay.
Yes.
And if Mike or Joe or somebody can call me from ABM, I would like to set up a time to visit with them between now and when it's back on the agenda.
okay, they're also nodding in body language that they have heard you, and that they've heard you, and then therefore, that means to me they will
And
honor
I
that
appreciate
request.
that. And if Tyner is still there, if he would just make sure that it gets put on the agenda for the 8th, I would appreciate it.
Yes, and I'm going to he's not here, but Belinda's here, and they can work with you on language at a later time tomorrow or the next part of the week. And Commissioner Modis, do you have any adjournments in memory?
No, Judge, I don't have any
Okay.
today.
And I don't have it completely in front of me, but I will also bring it back for Wednesday. But it bears noting that this weekend, we lost a public servant, Richard Martinez, who was the Public Works Director for the city of Corpus Christi, who passed away suddenly. He was only 56 years old, which seems very young to me because that's my age. I'm in my 56th year. I'm only 55, but I like to go up. And we're mourning that loss because he was somebody that we worked so closely with in all of our endeavors with Public Works, and he hailed from Pleasanton, Texas. And I just wanted to express that during these challenging times, I think it's important that we as political bodies extend condolences. A huge loss for the city of Corpus Christi, and while we didn't know him only from a professional sense, it seems that it would be very appropriate to just have a moment of silence for the city and for their department head that was so beloved to them. He just had one of those personalities that everybody enjoyed working with. So we're thinking about the Martinez family from Corpus Christi and from Pleasanton, and we're also thinking about the city of Corpus Christi as our sister family. So just 10 seconds of silence, and we will bring back his full obituary next week. I'm sorry, later this week. No, next week. May he rest in peace. This meeting is adjourned, and the time for the clerk is 6:01 exactly.